I'm Sarah Outen, I'm an adventurer and author, and I'm also really happy to be a YHA Ambassador. I think my adventuring career really started from my childhood, in terms of the fact that I spent loads of time outside. I was really sporty. I spent time climbing trees and just kind of exploring the areas where we lived. And we lived in quite a number of places because my father was in the RAF. And through my sort of senior school years, I did my Duke of Edinburgh's award. That was a real taste of sort of expeditions, even if they were just a few days at a time. And from there it's kind of grown into bigger, longer, more remote stuff really. But I think that grounding in the outdoors and the appreciation of it and the sort of skills and experiences that I had as a youngster were really formative for me. So in 2009 I rowed across the Indian Ocean solo from Australia to Mauritius, and that was the result of sort of 3 years of planning and training and working towards making that happen, because it was a massive project to pull off in terms of sort of logistics and finance and everything else in between. And that journey really came out of being totally inspired by hearing about ocean rowing and kind of in an instant knowing, wow, I would like to have a go at that. And that had come to me at university, that sort of moment of hearing about ocean rowing and so on. So I sort of thought, well, that's what I'll do when I finish. And I ended up going solo after my father died very suddenly, and he wasn't ever going to come with me on the boat, but the people that I'd sort of notionally started getting together as a team, they didn't know my dad, and so I felt, well, this has to be solo because I wanted it to be in his memory and use it as a way to get through that grief. So that was really my first big journey, and certainly sort of independent, totally independent, and solo. And it was whilst I was out there that I thought about what would happen next. And certainly one of the things that kept on playing in my mind was the idea of another journey, a longer one that went across all the other oceans and across land as well. And so that was London to London via the world, which took 18 months to plan and bring together the sponsorship and the team and the logistics and so on, and then it took 4.5 years to complete it as well, with many ups and downs in between. But the essence of that journey was to row and cycle and kayak a traverse of the Northern Hemisphere, starting and finishing in London. And I've always really loved working with young people, and I think that sort of travel and the stories that people can bring back from journeys are so powerful at sort of inspiring and educating and just opening young people's minds. So that was a real thread to that journey, was connecting with young people and schools. And then separately it was to raise money for charities. So we raised about £50,000 in the end through the journey. So it was a really special, if not slightly crazy, expedition at times. Well, for me it's about, I think a journey is a spectrum, or like a jigsaw puzzle of so many different things. There's so many different experiences and emotions that you will go through in that time, and definitely the positive, enriching, exciting, kind of mind-opening, learning sort of stuff definitely outweighs the challenges. Totally does. And even those challenges, I think, just give you so much in terms of knowledge about yourself, or strength, or just insight really into how to get the best out of yourself. So yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer to me. I look at it now and it feels like it was a no-brainer. So part of the journey involved kayaking for 1,500 miles through Alaska, and a big part of that journey took us through areas where there were bears. And in that part of very remote Alaska, these coastal grizzly bears are really big, and really quite curious as well, because they don't really see people that often. And at this stage, I talk about us because I was kayaking with another lady, a really brilliant kayaker called Justine again. But we'd pulled ashore on this beach at the end of a long day, thinking, oh, this looks good. Set up our tent and then went to the back of the beach. There was a little stream, little brook running through. There was salmon about that sort of at that time of the year. So we'd been told that if we came across a stream, a brook or so, and we should check it for salmon because the bears are going to be feeding there. And we looked in this brook and there were no salmon, and we thought that meant, oh great, there'll be no bears here because they'll be off hunting for salmon. It hadn't occurred to me that the salmon will come up and down with the tide and that kind of thing, and maybe a bear's just going to be somewhere different anyway. But we were both having a bit of a wash, a shower, and then Justine left that kind of stream area and went back to the tent, and I'm sort of bent over washing my hair when I noticed something walking down the river towards me, and for a split second I thought it might be Justine, and I looked up and there was this grizzly bear just, what are you doing? And before that I'd imagined that my first kind of face-to-face encounter with a bear would be this spiritual moment, and it would be quite special, and I totally remember all the rules about what to do and how to behave. As it happened, I didn't. I squealed and flapped and turned to run. I fell over and splashed, at which point this bear, who's really curious, comes running down the river towards me. And thankfully I was able to get out onto the bank and get back to where the tent was, screaming at Justine that there's a bear, and she says, what do you mean? Is there a bear? And of course there's a bear, and I arrived back and she's just filming with her video camera as I'm stood there naked, and this bear is now sniffing all the clothes that I'd just left in the middle there. And it took quite a bit of shouting and throwing rocks into the water to splash to get him to leave. But that was definitely a very funny moment afterwards, if not at the time.
Land or sea?
Sea.
This is going to be tough, I think. Rowing, cycling or kayaking?
Oh, I can't choose. I just can't choose. Though if I've just said sea, maybe I should say rowing. Bike's not much use out there.
Lake District or Peak District?
Lake District.
Reading or writing?
I'm going to say writing.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
How'd you have it?
How do I have it? I'm all about the herbal, or like cutting up ginger and things. So my favourite YHA hostel is Edale. It seems to have come up a lot of times in my life, both for business, for pleasure, sort of helping youngsters on their own adventure trips, but equally sort of starting out with my own. And so I've been there the most, and it feels like quite a special place. But hopefully, now that I'm an ambassador and I get to go and stay in more of the hostels and visit them, then we'll see, maybe that'll change. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm staying there next month. I'm going to walk the Pennine Way next month, and so I'm starting from Edale.
Okay.
I think that travel and adventure and the people that you meet through those experiences and the way that you can learn about yourself and the people that you're with is so powerful. Just sort of unilaterally, it's powerful for everybody, and it's almost like there's no negatives associated with that either. And so the work that YHA does in facilitating those things to happen, be it with groups coming in to go out from there with on their activities and so on, and also the charitable aims of YHA in terms of offering breaks for young people and for families and so on. It just feels like a really sort of organic fit with what I believe in, and so I'm really excited by being an ambassador.